Jonathan Deiss here, friend of the neighborhood Citizen-Archivist with some tips for navigating through the National Archives. When anyone arrives at the National Archives, they first have to go through security, like anybody does at any federal building. You have to go through a metal detector and have your equipment x-rayed. Try to be smart about what you bring in the archives. You're allowed to bring a computer, a camera, cell phone, and other electronic devices like scanners and equipment, accessories, cameras, for your cameras like tripods and things like that. It has to go through the x-ray machine, so don't be picky about it, and just be quick and go through. One thing you have to remember in dealing with the guards is do not try to tell them stories about your grandparents. Don't really give them too much information about why you're there. Just tell them, I'm here for research. And ask them where to go next. Cooperate with them. Give them your ID. Sign in. And don't go on with long-winded stories about how your grandfather saved the Union or your immigrants came on a ship and their name was changed at Ellis Island. The guards don't care. These guys have met presidents and kings and world leaders, and they're just not impressed with that kind of stuff anymore, really. And frankly, they just don't care. They hear it all day. And they're also not tour guides. Don't ask them where to get a bite to eat or the best place to go for sushi or where the museums are. They may be nice and tell you, but they really don't want to. When you bring in your equipment, you're going to have to get an equipment receipt. So go ahead and be willing to show the guard your equipment and the serial number, and just follow the stuff they tell you to do. If you don't have a research card, you need to show them your ID, and don't be picky about that too. You have to actually get out your driver's license or your passport or your student ID or whatever you have, and let them see it. And basically just do what they tell you to do. These guys are professionals, and they're there to protect the records and protect you while you're there. Thanks. You may want to bring in some research notes, but primarily you want to keep that stuff limited to photocopies and your own hand-copied notes. Don't try to bring in any old documents. Don't bring in birth certificates, death certificates, military paperwork, discharge papers, diaries, or anything that looks old. This is really going to cause a problem with security and the guards, because they are going to question what you have, and when you leave the building, this is going to cause them to call an archivist who is going to come down and have to look at your material. I mean, if you really absolutely have to bring it in, you have to, but get a receipt for it like you would for your equipment, so that when you're leaving the building, there's no question that the stuff is yours and it doesn't belong in an archival box, or has not come from part of the collection at the archives, because the guards, frankly, are just going to look at anything that's old, and they're going to wonder whether this comes from the collections. So be smart. Bring in notes if you have to. Don't bring in old documents, old photographs, military paperwork, diaries, ship's logs, or anything of that nature. And don't make jokes about getting anything out of the building either. That's just not funny to them. If you have to bring your notes into the research room, you have to have them stamped and stapled together, so make sure they're not something that's your only copy that you are afraid to have marred or touched by other people. This stuff all has to be inspected and all has to be looked at.